All right, video 8, project 3, Surf's Up Truck. We're going to learn the fly stitch, continuous fly stitch, and hopefully get the trunk stitched down with an X or cross stitches. All right, when last we left off, you were doing the outline to show detail on the truck itself. So hopefully you were able to get all that stitched and done and were happy with your effort. We're going to move on and learn a fly stitch. Let me tell you a little backstory on the fly stitch. It was probably the most difficult stitch for me to master, and it's not hard. What I need you to understand is we all have different learning styles, and I just needed a different approach. Once I received more visual instruction with some written instruction, I had it. So I needed both. The visual wasn't enough. I needed to see a picture or a diagram, and that's what I'm going to do for you because it's an awesome stitch. You'll see as we go, it has a lot of uses. So it's one that I'd love for you to master. Remember, progress over perfection, but it's also one of those, like we talked about in the Zoom video, where you're going to need to begin it and end it, start it to finish it, probably anywhere from 36 to 67 times before you have created a map in your brain with those special cells that are up there that are going to remember the process. But once you've got it, I think you're going to be able to master it, no problem. We're going to use some standalone fly stitches to show the strap detail for the flip-flops, and then we are going to use some continuous fly stitches to show the palm frond detail, and that's where we're going to do. Again, we may end up needing to split this video if it goes over long. All right, so let's do it. Let's start with the flip-flops, where you will see just 2 standalone fly stitches. This is what I had to have. And so I had a friend who had taken a class from Judith Baker Montano. We need to give her credit. She's in La Veta, Colorado now, and she does a lot of crazy quilting. She's written some fabulous stitching books, so you might want to look her up. But this is how she teaches the fly stitch. She shows you the torso of a human. I don't draw well, but that's the torso of a human. You see a neck, you see 2 shoulders, and you see a belly button. And the mantra is, what you say to yourself again and again, is I'm going shoulder, shoulder, belly button. That's it. Shoulder, shoulder, belly button. And it's when it comes down here that it turns into a V. So I'm going to set that out, but you may want to grab up your mechanical pencil and write that somewhere. You might even want to write it in your direction sheet somewhere. And that's what we're going to do. So looking at these, first of all, the interesting part is you're going to have to do them upside down. So that is interesting. I don't have a better explanation other than if you try to do it this way, they're going to form the wrong way. We need it to look like a flip-flop, so we need to do it like that. So what I need you to imagine is about halfway, and I'm trying to come up behind the orange stitching, behind my blanket stitch, about halfway through the center of my flip-flop, I'm going to come up. That's my left shoulder, is what I'm going to call it. I'm going to leave a loop of thread right there, and I'm going to go across the way and go back in at the other side. Don't do anything else yet. I'm going to swoop up under, and I'm going to find myself a belly button. Well, the belly button needs to be, in the center, slightly off center, where that flip-flop would be between your toes, where that part between your toes would be. So I came up, I swooped my thread around on the surface of the work. I'm going back in on the opposite side, my other shoulder, and I'm coming up at what I'm calling a belly button, which is actually the toe where your toes, between your big toe and your first toe would be. And I'm gonna bring my needle up through that pull, pull, pull. Don't pull it over tight, but do you see what I have? I have a V. And then you can decide how long. A continuous fly stitch usually puts we've got to now secure that stitch, so we've got to hop over the V and put our thread back in. I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch away, so you'll see a little bit of a line. It'll be a V plus a line. And look at that. How perfect is that for a flip-flop detail? I'm going to encourage you, because again, these are from some fairly large stitches, to tie a knot in the back. And you don't have to break your thread. I'm just going to hop over to the other one. So there's my knot, and then I'm going to come over to this one again about halfway through, and I'm on the right side of this straight part of my blanket stitch. I'm going to come up, that's a shoulder. I'm going to swoop my thread around and facing me, swoop my thread. I came up at what I'm saying is a shoulder. I'm swooping my thread around here in a circular fashion. Let me make sure you can see it. I'm going back in on the opposite side about halfway, the distance between the heel of the flip-flop and the toe of the flip-flop. I'm going to swoop my needle up under there and come up where I would say is, between my big toe and my first toe. And I'm going to pull that up until I get that V shape. And somehow one of my threads is a little looser than the other, so let me yank on it. All right, I'm going to jump over. I've got to secure that, so I'm going to come about 1/8 of an inch away and go to the back. And there's my second flip-flop strap. And I'm just going to tie and secure it. So those are two standalone fly stitches. They could be shorter, they could be wider, your V could be wider. But what I'd love for you to see is in a sky, that simple stitch could be a swallow, or it could be a seagull or something like that. You may want to take your white thread and make some standing alone up here in what we're going to say is the sky, even though this is sand, and put a few in. So there you go. That's a standalone fly stitch, and I'm going to knot that off on the back and clip it and get rid of that color. So that's those two. I'll come back to you with a part 2 of video 8 to do this, to do the fronds on the palm.